This is a common tree in Central Australia. It's called the bloodwood. It's a eucalypt, a gum tree, but it gets its name because if you chop into the bark there, or into the trunk, and leave the wound, it will seep sap out, and that sap is a blood red colour. But the importance of the tree is a food source to Aboriginals of the region, because if you look up there into the branches, you can see characteristic brown, dark, lumpy things, and they are the bloodwood apples. They are the food source, the thing that you eat. Well, I could climb up the tree and pick them, but it's easier to use the time-honoured method. And there you have them, bloodwood apples. But not at all the green and red juicy things that you and I are used to. These are hard and woody. In fact, each one is a protective coat made by an insect parasite. It makes these large wooden galls and then conducts its life cycle within each one. And it's the insect that's the food source, but you have to get it out. Now these so-called apples are really hollow wooden balls, and it's very hard to tell from the outside what's a good one and what's a bad one. You see, break it open, it might be like that, old and dead and useless, no tucker in that. So there are a couple of checks you run to make sure that the apple you've got is going to be full of food. Firstly, that one's very heavy. It's a lot heavier than that, which means that there's good moisture inside there. Secondly, the hole where the insects get in and out is just down there, and if I look at that, I can see there's a plug in it, which means that things haven't got out yet, and they're inside there waiting to be eaten. Well, to get at them, we have to split the bloodwood apple, and here goes. Get an axe, or something like it, just chop in there, slightly off centre, watching your fingers, and work the blade through. And there we are. Now this one is a young apple, and you can see the beginning of the life cycle. Across there is that sort of green grape-like thing. That's the mother insect. She's the one that the gall has been made around. Inside there, she's put her eggs on the lining. All of that's good food. I'll dig her out there. There she is. And out come the eggs as well as a sort of white powder. And all of that can be eaten. It's rather like a grape. It is actually quite sweet because it's flavoured with the juices of the tree. And that white powder, the eggs, well, doesn't taste of much at all. Still, if the gall or the bloodwood apple goes on to the next stage, it looks like that. And you can see the insects have now become little grubs. We'll dig some of those out. Little brown grubs. There we are. And once again, all of that is important food. It tastes a bit like rather bland meat paste. I suppose it is, really. The final stage, if the insects get that far, is to have an apple that looks like that. There you can see the little insects are now ready to go. They're tiny little insects with wings. It means they're ready to fly and leave the home. Now they can't do that because there's a plug in place. And that's where the mother comes in. She's actually tethered from the plug to the other side. And her last useful act is to die. Because when she dies, her body shrinks and it pulls the plug out. That opens the door and the little insects can escape. But before that time, they too are good food. Scoop the whole lot out there. You can see she's a bit thinner than the last one. And there's the mass of tiny insects all waiting to leave. Well, that's eaten in traditional form. Well, that's the animal part of the meal, but there's a vegetable side too. And if I get my knife here, you can see that chopping away at the inside of that bloodwood apple, I can carve out great chunks of this white fibrous material. It's very much like the coconut that you've probably chopped up at home. Here it comes, and there's a surprising amount of it. This is only half the bloodwood apple, remember. There we are, big white chunks. Looks like coconut, and it tastes rather like it. It's sweet, it's crunchy. You'd think it was coconut. And that's really a good meal. All the insect material is the animal part, and the fibrous coconutty stuff is the plant type. Well, it seems a bit odd to us. Insects are not a normal part of our diet, and yet when you think about it, they're not very far removed from crabs and yabbies and crayfish that we think are a delicacy. And out here, you eat what you can get. It's a pretty barren landscape, and this is good food. Curiosity.